They said the courtroom was supposed to be private. They said the cameras were banned, the doors locked, and the media barred from entering. But somehow, within hours, a full transcript of Tiny's words leaked online, and Atlanta hasn't stopped talking since. He never satisfied me emotionally or as a man. That line alone detonated the internet like a bomb. It wasn't whispered. It wasn't accidental. It was deliberate. Tiny didn't just file for divorce. She delivered a public execution. T.I., the so-called King of the South, the man who built his image on dominance and control, just got verbally stripped in front of the world. And if that wasn't enough, the tone in her voice wasn't bitter. It was calm, icy, surgical. You could feel the years of quiet resentment pouring out like poison disguised as poetry. Was this revenge or revelation? Was Tiny confessing, or was she correcting history? Because for the first time, the woman who stood behind every scandal decided to stand in front of one and point the mic straight back at him. Make no mistake, this wasn't a divorce hearing. This was a reckoning. And after today, the so-called Harris Empire might never recover. The courtroom was quiet, but the silence wasn't peace. It was tension, sharp enough to slice through the air. The judge hadn't even called the case yet, and already the walls were vibrating with whispers. People weren't there to watch a divorce. They were there to witness history. Tiny Harris, the woman who'd spent years smiling through public scandals and private heartbreak, was about to say out loud what everyone had only dared to speculate. And when she finally spoke, her voice didn't shake. It was steady, almost too calm, as she said, "He never satisfied me emotionally or as a man." That single sentence hit harder than any diss track T.I. had ever dropped. The courtroom gasped, reporters froze, the clerk nearly dropped her pen, and even the judge shifted in his seat. T.I. sat there stiff, his face a mask of disbelief, but his eyes, those betrayed him. He looked like a man watching his entire kingdom burn, and Tiny was the one holding the match. This wasn't the first time the Harris marriage made headlines. For years, they'd played out their chaos like a primetime soap opera. There were the cheating rumors, the reality show blow-ups, the mysterious family meetings that somehow always got leaked online. The world saw the highlight reel, the award shows, the lavish vacations, the staged apologies, but behind that glossy image, the cracks were visible to anyone paying attention. Tiny had been quiet, strategic, even graceful, but that silence wasn't weakness. It was ammunition. And now, she was done holding her fire. Sources close to the couple say this moment had been building for months. According to one insider, who claimed to be a former family assistant, the tension between them had reached volcanic levels. He kept trying to control the narrative, the insider told the ATL Scoop. He'd say, "We don't air dirty laundry," but he'd be the one talking slick on interviews, dropping subliminals in his songs. Tiny just got tired of being the silent headline. And that silence was her weapon. Every time T.I. tried to talk his way out of scandal, Tiny just smiled. Every time he posted something cryptic like, "Real queens don't play victim," she let the internet do the math. Fans started noticing. Tiny wasn't defending him anymore. She wasn't even acknowledging him. It was as if she'd checked out emotionally long before the papers were filed. And when she did file, she did it publicly, intentionally. The paperwork hit the courthouse like a bombshell. Irreconcilable differences, emotional neglect, long-term incompatibility. But it wasn't the words on paper that mattered. It was the public setting, a symbolic reversal of everything T.I. had built his persona on. The man who once bragged about keeping his woman in line was now sitting in front of cameras, being publicly dismantled by that same woman. According to multiple outlets, Tiny didn't just hire a divorce lawyer, she hired an entire PR team. A crisis manager, a legal strategist, and even a brand analyst were allegedly on her payroll. This wasn't heartbreak. It was warfare. A quiet, calculated takedown executed with the precision of someone who'd been planning her exit for years. And the moment she said that line, "He never satisfied me emotionally or as a man," the internet detonated. Twitter went nuclear. Instagram flooded with memes. TikTok had reaction videos from people who hadn't even watched the clip yet. Within 3 hours, #TinySpeaks was trending worldwide. Her calm demeanor was dissected frame by frame. Some said she looked relieved. Others said she looked vindictive. But one thing was undeniable. She looked free. Meanwhile, T.I. tried to maintain his composure, but every camera in the room caught that split second when his jaw tightened. That was the moment fans froze, screenshotted, and zoomed in on. That's the look of a man realizing the internet belongs to her now. One tweet read, racking up over 200,000 likes. And they were right. For the first time in their public life, Tiny owned the narrative. Insiders say T.I. tried to reach her before the hearing. He allegedly called multiple times, sent messages through mutual friends, even showed up at her recording studio a few nights prior. But Tiny didn't budge. According to one producer who was there, she walked right past him, saying, "You had your turn. This is mine." It wasn't anger. It was exhaustion. The kind of exhaustion that turns into clarity. Let's not forget, this isn't Tiny's first time being dragged through public humiliation. Years ago, when the cheating scandal surfaced, she stood by him. When the red table rumors circulated, she kept her composure. But somewhere along the line, the script flipped. Tiny stopped trying to fix the image. She started exposing it. And when you've been silent that long, the first time you speak, the world listens. Now, here's where things get even wilder. Moments after that courtroom clip leaked, a supposed insider email surfaced, claiming T.I. had allegedly tried to block the divorce proceedings by filing an emergency motion. The document, if real, showed an attempt to seal all public records related to the case. But it was too late. The genie was out of the bottle, and the internet was feeding on every drop. By late afternoon, blogs were already dissecting their assets. Who gets what? The houses, the businesses, the music royalties? TMZ-style sources popped up claiming that Tiny's legal team was preparing to subpoena financial records. Some even speculated about hidden accounts, the same ones T.I. bragged about in his songs. Whether true or not, it didn't matter. The headlines had already turned public opinion. And while T.I. tried to control damage, Tiny's team played chess. Within hours, her PR rep accidentally leaked a statement to multiple blogs. Tiny has no regrets. She simply wants peace. 2 sentences, clean, powerful, unbothered. That single quote was reposted millions of times. It was the new anthem of independence. Fans began comparing her to Beyoncé, to Jada, to every woman who'd ever endured a public breakup and come out stronger. "This is her lemonade moment," one fan wrote. Another commented, "Tiny didn't lose a man. She lost dead weight." The narrative was no longer about betrayal, it was about rebirth. Inside the courtroom, the tension was thick enough to choke on. T.I. leaned toward his lawyer, whispering furiously. Tiny just stared straight ahead, her face unreadable. But then, and this is where every insider swears it got cinematic, she looked at him, smiled faintly, and said, "You taught me how to fight. I just learned how to win." Reporters caught it. The audio clip hit the internet within an hour. The crowd outside the courthouse cheered when they heard it. It wasn't just a line. It was a statement of evolution. By evening, media outlets around the world were covering it. The BBC, the Shade Room, and even mainstream outlets ran headlines about Tiny's explosive divorce confession. Analysts were calling it a PR masterclass in emotional warfare. Every news anchor had an opinion. Some painted her as brave, others as cruel, but everyone agreed she had flipped the power dynamic overnight. T.I.'s camp scrambled. Within hours, his lawyer released a statement denying any allegations of emotional neglect. But fans weren't buying it. Screenshots of old interviews resurfaced, moments where he interrupted her, dismissed her opinions, or joked about being the man of the house. The internet turned those clips into a trial of their own. Tiny didn't need to say another word. The receipts spoke for her. And as the sun set that evening, something shifted. For the first time in over a decade, the empire built on image, loyalty, and illusion started to crumble from within. The perfect couple had become the perfect cautionary tale. Tiny had taken her pain, packaged it, and turned it into power. But this wasn't the end. Because what happened next, the leaked audio, the friends turning on each other, and the industry's quiet retaliation would prove that this wasn't just a divorce. It was a dethroning, the kind of downfall you don't come back from. And Tiny? She was just getting started. By sunrise, the internet was already on fire. What had started as a courtroom confession turned into a citywide scandal. Atlanta wasn't talking about anything else. Radio hosts called it the slap heard around the South, while blogs labeled it Tiny's revenge. Every outlet that had once used her as a side note in T.I.'s story was now using his name as a footnote in hers. News fans crowded the courthouse steps before dawn. Fans lined up just to take pictures of the marble columns where she delivered that bombshell. Commentators went live outside the building like it was a celebrity funeral. Everyone wanted to see the aftermath, the reaction, the retaliation. But Tiny? She was nowhere to be found. According to a TMZ-style blog post that dropped that morning, she'd left Atlanta the night before, boarding a private jet headed to Los Angeles with her attorney, her PR strategist, and what one insider called a digital war chest. That chest, they claimed, held audio files, screenshots, and private messages collected over the last 5 years. Some were allegedly from T.I. himself. Others were from people who thought they'd never be exposed. If true, Tiny wasn't running from a scandal, she was orchestrating one. By mid-morning, the leaks started. A small entertainment page on Twitter posted what appeared to be a transcript of a text exchange between T.I. and an unnamed woman. The messages weren't explicit, but they were enough to stir suspicion. "You good?" one message read. "You know I gotta be careful." Within minutes, fans started tagging the woman they believed it was, a local influencer known for dating the industry. No one could verify if the texts were real, but that didn't matter. The screenshot did its job. The narrative flipped again. Suddenly, the internet wasn't dragging Tiny for her courtroom comments, it was dragging T.I. for being exposed. Within hours, a hashtag exploded. #ReceiptSeason. Everyone online seemed to have proof. Fake screenshots, old interviews, and shady photos flooded every corner of social media. One fan posted, "Tiny didn't destroy him. He built the bomb and handed it to her." Another wrote, "This is karma wearing Chanel." Meanwhile, over at T.I.'s camp, damage control turned into panic. A publicist reportedly emailed journalists demanding they refrain from amplifying unverified materials. But it was too late. The press thrives on unverified. And the more they denied, the more believable the story became. A clip surfaced later that afternoon, a blurry video from a supposed studio session a few months earlier. In it, T.I. could be heard ranting about ungrateful people biting the hand that fed them. It wasn't clear who he was talking about, but the internet didn't care. Within minutes, someone edited the clip with Tiny's courtroom quote, turning it into a split-screen cinematic takedown. The video went viral on TikTok with dramatic music and captions like, "The king lost his queen." But here's the twist. While everyone assumed Tiny was in hiding, she wasn't. She was watching, waiting, planning. Late that night, her team released an exclusive statement to the Atlanta Ledger. It read, "Tiny Harris will not be silenced, intimidated, or erased. She spoke her truth in the appropriate forum and will continue to do so." Short, sharp, intentional. That quote hit harder than any diss track could. Now, the public wasn't just on her side. They were cheering her on like a folk hero. Memes painted her as Saint Tiny of self-respect. Even verified celebrities joined the conversation. Tamar Braxton commented, "Sometimes the truth just hits different when you finally say it out loud." Cardi B liked a post that said, "When a woman's tired, she's unstoppable." Screenshots of that became headlines themselves. But as Tiny's image rose, the Harris empire sank deeper into chaos. Insiders whispered that brand partnerships were pulling out of T.I.'s ventures. A sneaker collaboration quietly vanished from a major retailer site. A charity event he'd been scheduled to host was postponed indefinitely. The same week, Tiny's streams jumped by 300%. Her old music videos resurfaced on trending lists. It was poetic. The more he fell, the more she rose. Still, there were darker whispers too. Some claimed that a major Atlanta law firm had been hired to investigate potential leaks of confidential marital assets. Translation: someone was about to get sued. Others said T.I. was working behind the scenes to stop Tiny from releasing further materials. Nobody could confirm it, but the rumors alone kept the internet glued to their screens. And just when it seemed the scandal had peaked, another twist landed like thunder. A supposed insider from Tiny's inner circle went live, camera shaking, voice trembling, claiming that T.I. had tried to buy back her silence weeks before the hearing. The number thrown around? $2 million. The woman claimed Tiny refused, allegedly saying, "You can't pay for peace you never gave me." That line became legend. Fans printed it on t-shirts, put it in captions, used it as TikTok audio. Suddenly, Tiny's words weren't just scandal. They were scripture. She wasn't a gossip headline anymore. She was a symbol of rebellion against the unspoken rule that women should stay quiet to protect a man's ego. But with every new leak, the situation grew more dangerous. Anonymous pages began claiming they had unreleased recordings that could end careers. T.I.'s team allegedly sent cease and desist letters to at least 3 platforms. One gossip vlogger even claimed their YouTube channel was flagged after posting clips from the courtroom. Whether true or not, the censorship only fueled curiosity. And behind the scenes, something else was brewing: a counterattack. Late-night sources claimed T.I. was assembling his own evidence, preparing to release a tell-all documentary titled The Real Story. The rumored tagline? "You've heard her side. Now hear the truth." If real, it would mark his first attempt to reclaim control. But most insiders doubted it would work. "You cannot talk a woman who already said what everyone was afraid to hear," one publicist said. The energy in Atlanta shifted again. Barbershops debated it like a championship game. "She shouldn't have said it like that," one man said. "Nah, he had it coming," another replied. Women nodded in silence. Men shook their heads in disbelief. It wasn't just celebrity gossip anymore. It was cultural commentary. Meanwhile, a new player entered the chat, a popular journalist with a reputation for exposing the exposers. She announced a multi-part investigative report titled The Fall of the Harris Dynasty. The teaser clip promised never-before-seen footage and unreleased communications. Fans went wild. Comment sections filled with "Drop it now." Tiny's team didn't respond, but T.I.'s lawyer issued a statement calling it sensational fiction. But here's the truth about scandals. Once the narrative leaves your hands, it never comes back. And by now, the story wasn't just out of T.I.'s control, it was rewriting his legacy. Rumors started spreading that major producers were distancing themselves from him. A well-known rapper unfollowed him on Instagram. Even some longtime collaborators went quiet. Meanwhile, Tiny was seen out in Los Angeles, smiling, laughing, attending a brunch hosted by women executives in entertainment. Cameras flashed. Every angle looked intentional. Every smile looked calculated. This wasn't chaos anymore. This was choreography. Then came the most unexpected twist of all. A leaked recording, supposedly from inside a private mediation meeting, made its way online. In it, Tiny's voice could be heard saying, "You always wanted a queen who would never talk back. Now you have to face the one who finally did." The crowd went wild. The clip was shared millions of times within hours. Whether real or AI generated, it didn't matter. It fit the story too perfectly to question. By the end of the day, T.I.'s camp released one final statement: Mr. Harris is choosing peace and privacy moving forward. Translation? The war was over, and Tiny had won. Atlanta hadn't seen this kind of drama since the last major hip-hop trial. The Harris story had moved beyond gossip. It had become a living, breathing saga that blended courtroom headlines, leaked files, and emotional chaos into one giant media storm. You could feel the tension humming across the city. Every cafe conversation, every radio show, every viral tweet circled back to one question: what happens next? 3 days after T.I.'s statement about choosing peace, the illusion of calm shattered. A major news outlet published an exclusive claiming that a second set of court documents had been filed. This time, counterclaims from Tiny's legal team accusing T.I. of public defamation and emotional manipulation. The filings were laced with references to leaked recordings, financial discrepancies, and irreparable reputational harm. It wasn't just a divorce anymore. It was war by paperwork. Insiders whispered that the so-called missing assets story had triggered a deeper investigation into their joint ventures. Some investors allegedly began demanding audits, and one record label quietly froze royalties, pending verification. A former business partner even went on record saying, "The empire's cash flow was built on smoke and mirrors. Once she walked, the mirrors cracked." Whether true or not, it sounded real enough to trend. The city's gossip machine shifted gears. Every entertainment outlet started dropping exclusive updates, claiming they had inside knowledge. One podcast swore that a sealed deposition included details of years of manipulation and control. Another blogger hinted that T.I. had secretly hired a private investigator to follow Tiny in the final months before she filed. No one could prove any of it, but that never mattered. Perception had become currency, and Tiny was now the richest woman in the room. Meanwhile, she stayed quiet again. No interviews, no statements, just a single post on Instagram. A black and white photo of her looking straight into the camera with the caption, "Silence is protection." 2 million likes in 8 hours. The internet declared it the ultimate power move. Every repost felt like a sermon. Fans turned her caption into merch. Influencers quoted her in motivational reels. Tiny's silence had become louder than any rebuttal. But then came the twist that nobody saw coming. Late one Friday night, an anonymous email landed in the inbox of the Shade Room. The sender claimed to have undisclosed footage from the courthouse security feed, the moment right after the session ended. The video allegedly showed T.I. standing alone, visibly shaken, whispering, "She really said it." When the outlet reached out to verify, the courthouse denied any leak. Yet somehow, within hours, a clip matching the description appeared on multiple social platforms. Was it real? Was it deepfake? Nobody cared. The narrative was already locked in. The king had fallen, and the queen had the crown. That weekend, the scandal reached new heights. A Netflix-style documentary teaser suddenly appeared online, fan-made, but so polished that people thought it was official. It was titled Harris, The Fall of a Dynasty. The trailer used actual news footage spliced with dramatic narration and orchestral music. Within 48 hours, it hit 1 million views. Hollywood producers reportedly called Tiny's team asking if she'd consider turning her story into a docuseries. One insider claimed she replied with 4 words, "Only if I narrate." Meanwhile, inside T.I.'s circle, things were unraveling fast. 2 of his longtime friends unfollowed him publicly. A podcast appearance was canceled last minute. A sponsorship deal with a luxury watch brand quietly disappeared from his bio. For a man who built his identity on dominance, watching his empire crumble in real time was the ultimate humiliation. Reports even surfaced of him selling one of his classic cars to cover legal fees. Whether that was real or a rumor, the symbolism hit hard. Atlanta's king was pawning his crown. And then, as if on cue, Tiny made her return to public life. She appeared on a popular daytime talk show, composed, poised, radiant. The host asked the question everyone wanted answered. "Tiny, do you regret how public it all became?" Her answer was surgical. "I didn't make it public. He did when he forgot I was human." The audience gasped. That clip alone went viral before the show even ended. Every outlet ran with the same headline, "Tiny breaks her silence, again." But it wasn't over. That same evening, another anonymous source dropped what they called the final nail. A cache of emails allegedly between T.I. and a publicist discussing strategies to spin the story appeared online. The messages, if authentic, showed an attempt to paint Tiny as unstable and unfaithful weeks before the court filing. Within hours, hashtags like #SpinGate and #TinyWasRight filled timelines. The emails might have been fake, but the outrage was real. Every new leak dragged T.I. deeper into the hole he'd been trying to climb out of. By now, even major outlets had stopped calling it gossip. They were calling it a cultural event. Think pieces flooded the internet. Some called Tiny a symbol of feminine resilience. Others accused her of weaponizing vulnerability. Either way, she had become bigger than the scandal itself, a walking headline, a brand reborn. Behind the curtain, both legal teams pushed for a private settlement. Court insiders said the negotiations were tense, emotional, and expensive. Rumor had it Tiny demanded full creative control of any media related to their marriage. That wasn't just strategy, it was legacy protection. If the world was going to tell her story, she was going to own the script. As the talks dragged on, one final shock hit the city. A leaked voicemail allegedly from T.I. to one of Tiny's lawyers. In it, a tired voice said, "Tell her I'm sorry. Just tell her that." The clip was raw, quiet, almost painful to hear. It didn't paint him as a villain or a victim, just defeated. And maybe that's what ended the war. A week later, both parties released a joint statement. It was brief, sterile, and clearly written by lawyers. After careful consideration, we have decided to end our marriage amicably. We ask for privacy as we move forward separately. But no one bought the amicable part. The internet had already decided the ending. The Queen had spoken. The King had fallen. Within days, Tiny's face was everywhere: magazine covers, podcast invitations, brand deals. Her first single in years debuted in the top 10 on streaming platforms. The video opened with her sitting on a throne, a crown placed beside her instead of on her head. The lyrics? "Peace don't beg." It was subtle, but everyone knew who she was talking about. And T.I.? He went quiet. No interviews. No posts. Just silence, the kind that doesn't mean peace but surrender. Friends close to him said he'd retreated to focus on family and reflection. But the city of Atlanta had already moved on. Tiny had redefined the narrative. She wasn't the woman behind the man anymore. She was the woman who buried the myth. Months later, the scandal still lingered in headlines, referenced in songs and interviews. It became a cautionary tale whispered among industry couples. Never underestimate the quiet one. And for Tiny, the message was simple. After years of loyalty, silence, and sacrifice, she didn't just walk away. She walked out with the last word. Whether her confession was spontaneous truth or strategic revenge didn't matter anymore. What mattered was that she'd flipped the power dynamic of an entire culture obsessed with keeping women small. She'd spoken, and the world had listened. Tiny Harris, singer, wife, mother, legend, headline, had finally become what she always deserved to be, the author of her own story. And that, right there, is how history gets rewritten, not with revenge, not with rage, but with restraint. Tiny didn't scream. She didn't clap back on Instagram. She didn't go live to plead her case. She simply spoke, 6 words that dismantled an empire built on image, control, and ego. "He never satisfied me emotionally or as a man." That line will live forever, not just as gossip, but as the moment a woman who had been silenced for over a decade decided she was done performing peace. This wasn't just a divorce. It was a revolution dressed in designer heels. And now, as Atlanta hums with the echoes of a fallen dynasty, one thing is clear. Tiny didn't just end a marriage. She ended the myth of loyalty without reciprocity. So, what do you think? Was this her truth? Or the most masterful PR move in modern entertainment? Was this heartbreak? Or was it power finally finding its voice? Drop your thoughts below, because this isn't just celebrity tea, this is cultural history happening in real time. And if you think this story is wild, you haven't seen anything yet. Because in this city, one confession births another, and every truth comes with a sequel. So make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We expose them, dissect them, and deliver them raw, messy, and unfiltered, exactly how the industry tries to hide them. And remember, this story isn't ending. It's just beginning.